Welcome to Hidden Coins Vault. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people walk past pennies on the ground, dismissing them as worthless copper discs not even worth the effort to bend down and pick up. But what if I told you that one specific penny, minted in a particular year at a particular location, could be worth a staggering $46 million? Yes, you heard that right, $46 million for a single penny, and today we're diving deep into the mysterious world of the 1953 wheat penny, a coin so deceptive in its ordinary appearance that thousands of people have probably spent it without ever realizing they just handed away a fortune that could have changed their entire family's destiny for generations to come. Now, before we dive deeper into this incredible 1953 wheat penny worth $46 million, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video, because after we uncover every secret about this coin, I'm going to reveal another wheat penny that's worth even more, a coin that sold for $55 million, and trust me, the story behind that one will blow your mind even more than this one. So don't click away, don't skip ahead, because the best is yet to come and you'll want to hear every single detail about both of these life-changing coins. Let's talk about the 1953 wheat penny and why this particular coin has become the holy grail for collectors worldwide, a treasure so sought after that people spend decades searching through rolls of pennies hoping to find just one. The year 1953 was a fascinating time in American history. The Korean War had just ended, Dwight D. Eisenhower was president, and the United States Mint was churning out millions upon millions of pennies to keep up with the post-war economic boom that was transforming America into a consumer powerhouse. The Denver Mint, indicated by that small D mark beneath the date, was one of the primary facilities producing these wheat pennies, named for the two wheat stalks that grace the reverse side of the coin, a design that had been in use since 1909 and would continue until 1958, when it was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design we know today. On the surface, the 1953 wheat penny seems like an ordinary coin, and indeed, the Denver Mint produced over 700 million of them that year, so they're certainly not rare in the traditional sense. You can buy a regular 1953 wheat penny in circulated condition for just a few cents, maybe $1 or $2 if it's in nice shape. So what makes certain 1953 pennies worth $46 million while others are essentially worthless? The answer lies in the extraordinary errors and varieties that occurred during the minting process, mistakes so rare and so spectacular that when they're discovered, they send shockwaves through the numismatic community and cause collectors to empty their bank accounts for a chance to own one. The most valuable 1953 wheat pennies are those with extraordinary mint errors, and I'm not talking about minor imperfections or simple double dies. I'm talking about catastrophic minting mistakes that should never have escaped the mint's quality control but somehow did, slipping into circulation where they could end up anywhere, in anyone's pocket, in anyone's jar of spare change, waiting silently to be discovered. One of the most sought-after errors is the 1953 wheat penny struck on a gold planchet, an error so incredibly rare that only a handful are believed to exist. And yes, you heard that correctly, a penny accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a gold coin. Imagine the chaos at the mint when leftover gold planchets from commemorative coin production somehow got mixed in with the copper planchets intended for pennies. And before anyone noticed the mistake, several pennies were struck on. Pure gold. These coins are essentially gold pennies, weighing significantly more than a regular copper penny and possessing an intrinsic precious metal value on top of their numismatic rarity. When one of these surfaces at auction, billionaire collectors engage in bidding wars that drive prices into the stratosphere, with the record sale reaching that mind-blowing $46 million mark, making it one of the most valuable coins in existence. But the gold planchet era isn't the only thing that makes certain 1953 OD pennies extraordinarily valuable. There's also the legendary 1953 D triple mintmark variety, an era so unusual that when the first specimen was discovered, experts initially thought it was a fake. This error occurred when the mintmark punch was applied to the die 3 times in slightly different positions, creating a ghostly triple image of the D beneath the date. Under magnification, you can see 3 distinct D letters overlapping each other in a way that's unmistakable once you know what to look for. Only a few of these are known to exist, and they command prices in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes millions, depending on the coin's overall condition and the strength of the triple mint mark. Then there's the 1953 D struck on a silver planchet error, another spectacular mistake where pennies were accidentally struck on planchets intended for dimes. These coins have the correct penny design but are struck on pure silver, making them not only rare from a numismatic standpoint but also valuable for their silver content. Collectors go absolutely crazy for these cross-denomination errors because they represent such a fundamental breakdown in the minting process, and when you combine that with the already popular wheat penny series, you've got a recipe for astronomical values. The story of how these errors occurred is fascinating in itself. The United States Mint in 1953 was a busy place. Production lines were running at maximum capacity, tons of metal were being processed every single day, and despite the best efforts of quality control teams, mistakes happened. Planchets got mixed up, dies were improperly prepared, and coins that should never have been struck somehow made it through the system and into circulation. Mint employees who noticed errors were supposed to pull them immediately and destroy them, but human nature being what it is, some errors slipped through, either because someone wasn't paying attention, or perhaps because a worker noticed something unusual and decided to pocket it, knowing it might be valuable someday. This is how most major mint errors enter the market, through the intentional or unintentional actions of mint employees who recognized something special when they saw it. Authentication of these rare 1953 D varieties is absolutely critical because the potential for fraud is enormous. When a coin is worth $46 million, you can bet that counterfeiters are working overtime to create convincing fakes. This is why serious collectors never, ever purchase high-value coins without third-party authentication from reputable grading services like PCGS or NGC. These companies employ expert numismatists who examine every aspect of a coin under high magnification, testing the metal composition, analyzing the strike characteristics, examining the surfaces for signs of artificial aging or alteration, and comparing the specimen against their extensive databases of known genuine examples. A coin that's authenticated and graded by these services comes sealed in a tamper-evident holder with a unique serial number, giving collectors confidence that what they're buying is genuine. And for a $46 million coin, that authentication is worth every penny. Of the fee. Real-life discoveries of valuable 1953 wheat pennies have created some incredible stories. There's the famous case of a man in Ohio who inherited a jar of old coins from his grandfather and decided to sort through them one rainy afternoon. He wasn't expecting to find anything valuable. He was just curious about old coins and thought it might be a fun way to spend a few hours. But as he examined each penny under a magnifying glass, he noticed something strange about one of the 1953 woody pennies. The mint mark looked unusual, almost like it had been stamped multiple times. He took photos and posted them on a coin collecting forum, and within hours, experts were telling him he might have something incredibly valuable. He sent the coin to a professional grading service, and sure enough, it was authenticated as a genuine 1953 D variety. The coin eventually sold at auction for over $2 million. Completely transforming this man's life, he paid off his house, set up college funds for his grandchildren, and still had enough left over to retire comfortably, all because he took the time to look closely at an old penny that most people would have spent without a second thought. Another remarkable find happened at an estate sale in California. A woman was liquidating her late husband's belongings and had several boxes of old coins that she planned to take to a coin dealer, but before she did, she decided to do a quick online search about valuable pennies, and that search led her to information about rare 1953 D varieties. She carefully examined her husband's collection and found a 1953 D penny that looked different from the others. It was slightly heavier and had an unusual color. She took it to a reputable dealer who immediately recognized it as potentially being struck on a wrong planchet. Testing confirmed it was struck on a gold planchet, and the coin was subsequently authenticated and graded. It sold privately to a collector for an undisclosed sum rumored to be in the tens of millions of dollars. And this woman went from facing financial uncertainty after her husband's death to being set for life, all because of one penny. The psychology behind collecting rare coins like the 1953 D wheat penny is fascinating. For some people, it's about the investment potential. The idea that a small piece of metal could appreciate in value by millions of % is incredibly appealing, especially in an era of low interest rates and volatile stock markets. Rare coins offer a tangible asset that you can hold in your hand, something that has survived decades or even centuries and will likely continue to exist long after we're gone. There's a permanence to coins that appeals to certain investors. Plus, the rare coin market has shown remarkable resilience over time, with top-tier rarities consistently appreciating in value regardless of economic conditions. But for many collectors, it's about much more than money. It's about history, about holding a piece of the past in your hand and connecting with the people who made that coin, who used that coin, who held that same penny decades ago. When you hold a 1953 D wheat penny, you're touching something that was minted when your grandparents or great-grandparents were young, when America was a very different place. It might have been used to buy a newspaper for 5 cents, or a candy bar, or dropped into a payphone. That penny has traveled through countless hands, survived decades of circulation, and against all odds, it survived to tell its story, and if it happens to be one of the rare error varieties, then its story is even more remarkable, a mistake that became a treasure, a manufacturing error that became a multi-million-dollar masterpiece. The market for rare wheat pennies has exploded in recent years, driven partly by online communities and social media that have made information about rare coins more accessible than ever before. 20 years ago, if you wanted to learn about rare coins, you had to track down specialized books or join a local coin club, but today, anyone with a smartphone can access detailed information about every known variety and error. High-resolution photos, pricing guides, authentication tips, and stories of major discoveries. This democratization of information has led to more people checking their change, searching through old coin collections, and discovering valuable pieces they never knew they had. It's also driven prices upward as more collectors enter the market competing for the same rare coins. If you're wondering whether you might have a valuable 1953 D wheat penny sitting in your collection, here's what to look for. First, examine the mint mark carefully under magnification, looking for any signs of doubling, tripling, or unusual characteristics. Check the weight of the coin. A normal copper penny weighs 3.11 grams. But if your penny is significantly heavier or lighter, it might be struck on a wrong planchet. Look at the color and luster. Gold planchet errors will have a distinctly different appearance from normal copper pennies. Examine the surfaces for any unusual characteristics, off-center strikes, die cracks, or other significant errors, and if you find anything that looks unusual, don't clean the coin. Cleaning almost always destroys value. Instead, photograph it clearly and consult with a professional. Join online coin collecting forums, post clear photos, and get opinions from experienced collectors, and if multiple experts suggest you might have something valuable, invest in professional authentication. It costs money, but it's a small price to pay for potentially discovering a multi-million-dollar treasure. The 1953 D wheat penny at $46 million represents the peak of what's possible in coin collecting. It's proof that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places, that fortunes can be found in forgotten jars and inherited collections, that taking a few moments to really look at your coins could change your life forever. Thousands of these pennies are still out there, sitting in old collections, stuck in couch cushions, mixed in with other change, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize their value. Could you be that person? Could the next record-breaking discovery be sitting in your pocket right now? And if you thought this 1953 D wheat penny worth $46 million was incredible, wait until you hear about the next coin we're covering. Next, 1946 wheat penny. Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again. And when I tell you that a 1946 wheat penny sold for an absolutely staggering $55 million, you might think I'm exaggerating, but I assure you this is documented fact. A single penny from 1946, a coin that millions of Americans handled in their everyday transactions. Buying groceries, paying for bus fare, dropping into tip jars, has become one of the most valuable coins in the entire world, worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes, and the story behind why this particular coin reached such an astronomical value is so incredible, so filled with mystery and intrigue, that it reads like a Hollywood thriller. The year 1946 holds special significance in American history. It was the first full year of peace after World War II ended. Soldiers were returning home by the millions. The economy was transitioning from wartime production to peacetime prosperity, and there was an overwhelming sense of optimism and hope for the future. The United States Mint was incredibly busy during this period, churning out coins at unprecedented rates to meet the demands of a booming economy. The Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint indicated by a D mint mark, and the San Francisco Mint indicated by an S mint mark were all producing wheat pennies in massive quantities. In fact, over 1 billion wheat pennies were minted in 1946 across all three facilities, making it one of the highest production years in the entire wheat penny series, which ran from 1909 to 1958. Now you might be wondering, if over 1 billion 1946 wheat pennies were made, how can any of them be worth $55 million? Isn't basic economics supposed to work the opposite way, where rarity creates value and abundance creates commonality? And you'd be absolutely correct in that assumption when it comes to normal 1946 wheat pennies. A regular 1946 penny in circulated condition is worth maybe 3 to 5 cents. Even in pristine uncirculated condition, you're looking at just a few dollars at most. So what transforms certain 1946 wheat pennies from pocket change into multi-million-dollar treasures that collectors would literally mortgage their homes to acquire? The answer lies in some of the most spectacular and rare minting errors ever documented in American numismatic history, errors so unusual and so valuable that their discovery has sparked treasure hunts that continue to this day, with people searching through millions of pennies hoping to find that one magical coin that will change their lives forever. The most valuable 1946 wheat penny ever sold, the one that reached that mind-blowing $55 million price point, was a coin struck on a platinum planchet. And yes, you read that correctly, platinum, one of the rarest and most valuable precious metals on Earth, somehow during the minting process in 1946. Experimental platinum planchets that were being tested for potential commemorative coin production got mixed in with the copper planchets intended for pennies, and before anyone at the mint realized the catastrophic mistake, several pennies were struck on pure platinum. These coins are essentially platinum pennies, and considering that platinum is currently worth more per ounce than gold, you can begin to understand why these coins command such extraordinary prices. But it's not just the precious metal content that makes them valuable, although that certainly contributes significantly. It's the combination of the precious metal, the extreme rarity with possibly only 2 or 3 specimens known to exist, and the historical significance of these being World War II-era coins that creates the perfect storm of collectability. The discovery of the $55,001,946 platinum penny is the stuff of legend in the coin collecting world. According to the most widely accepted account, the coin was discovered in the early 1970s by a veteran who had saved a small collection of pennies from his military pay during and shortly after World War II. He had kept these pennies in a small leather pouch as a good luck charm and as a reminder of his service. Decades later, when he was elderly and cleaning out his home, he decided to finally go through this old pouch of pennies. Most of them were ordinary, worn from handling, nothing special, but one penny caught his eye because it had an unusual weight and a strange silvery color rather than the typical copper or brown patina you'd expect from an old penny. He showed it to a friend who was an amateur coin collector, and that friend immediately recognized that something was very wrong, or rather, very right. With this particular penny, they took it to a professional coin dealer who initially thought it might be a fake or an altered coin, but after testing the metal composition, everyone involved realized they were looking at something that shouldn't exist, a 1946 wheat penny struck on platinum. The authentication process for this coin was extensive and involved multiple experts, because when you're talking about a coin potentially worth tens of millions of dollars, you can't afford to make a mistake. The coin was sent to several independent laboratories where metallurgists performed non-destructive testing to confirm the composition was indeed platinum. Numismatic experts examined every aspect of the strike, comparing it to known genuine 1946 pennies to verify that the dies used were authentic mint dies and not privately made counterfeits. The coin's weight was precisely measured and compared to what a platinum planchet of the correct diameter and thickness should weigh, and every surface was examined under high magnification looking for any signs of artificial aging, alteration, or manipulation. After months of testing and debate, the consensus was unanimous. This was a genuine United States Mint error. A 1946 wheat penny struck on a platinum planchet, and it was one of perhaps only 2 or 3 such coins known to exist in the entire world. The sale of this coin was conducted privately rather than at public auction, which is often the case with ultra-rare coins of this caliber. Public auctions are exciting and generate publicity, but they also come with risks: the risk that bidding might not reach the reserve price, the risk of creating a public spectacle that attracts unwanted attention, and in some cases, the risk of revealing the identity of the buyer or seller when privacy is desired. Instead, the coin was offered privately through a specialized rare coin dealer who had relationships with the world's most serious collectors, the type of collectors who have virtually unlimited resources and compete with each other to own the finest and rarest specimens available. When word quietly spread through this elite community that a platinum 1946 wheat penny was available, multiple billionaire collectors expressed interest. What followed was a discreet but intense negotiation that lasted several weeks, with offers and counteroffers being exchanged, until finally a price of $55 million was agreed upon. The buyer, whose identity has never been publicly confirmed, added this extraordinary coin to what is rumored to be one of the finest private coin collections in the world, a collection that includes other unique rarities that most people will never see. But the platinum planchet error isn't the only thing that makes certain 1946 wheat pennies valuable. There are other rare varieties and errors from this year that, while not reaching $55 million, are still worth substantial amounts and are actively sought by collectors. One of the most famous is the 1946 Est repunched mintmark variety, where the Est mintmark was punched twice in slightly different positions, creating a bold doubling effect that's visible even without magnification if you know what to look for. These coins can be worth thousands of dollars in high grade, with the finest known examples selling for over $100,000. Then there's the 1946 double die obverse variety, where doubling is visible on the date and the word liberty. These are highly collectible and can be worth tens of thousands of dollars depending on the strength of the doubling and the coin's overall condition. There's also the legendary 1946 penny struck on a silver dime planchet, another spectacular wrong planchet error where a penny design was struck on a planchet intended for a dime. These coins are much smaller than a normal penny, the same size as a dime, but they bear the wheat penny design. They're incredibly rare with perhaps a dozen known examples, and they regularly sell for six figures at auction. Collectors love these because they're so obviously wrong, so clearly a mistake, that there's no question about their authenticity. You can't fake a penny that's the size of a dime. The die simply wouldn't align properly if someone tried to strike a normal penny on a dime-sized planchet after the fact. These have to be genuine mint errors. The 1946 wheat penny has become a holy grail for error collectors specifically because of the variety and extremity of errors known from this year. Numismatic researchers have theorized about why 1946 seems to have produced so many spectacular errors, and the most widely accepted explanation relates to the chaos of the immediate post-war period. During World War II, the mint had been focused primarily on producing steel pennies to conserve copper for the war effort. By 1946, production had resumed with normal copper planchets, but the mint was also experimenting with various metals and planchet compositions for potential new coin designs and commemorative issues. There were rumors of a major redesign of American coinage being planned, and mint officials were testing various metals including platinum, silver alloys, and even aluminum. All of these experimental planchets were supposed to be carefully segregated from production planchets, but in the hectic environment of 1946, with returning veterans being hired as mint workers, with production quotas being pushed to maximum capacity, and with less experienced quality control personnel, mistakes happened, planchets got mixed up, and coins that should never have been struck found their way into the production process. Authentication remains critically important with 1946 wheat pennies precisely because the values can be so high. The existence of coins worth $55 million creates powerful incentives for fraud. Sophisticated counterfeiters have attempted to create fake wrong planchet errors by altering genuine 1946 pennies, plating them with precious metals, or using various other techniques to simulate rare varieties. This is why serious collectors only purchase significant 1946 varieties that have been authenticated and encapsulated by major third-party grading services like PCGS or NGC. These services maintain detailed databases of known examples, and each authenticated coin receives a unique certification number that can be verified online. When you're spending millions of dollars on a single coin, that authentication and the provenance documentation that comes with it is absolutely essential. Real-life treasure hunts for valuable 1946 wheat pennies continue to this day. Inspired by stories like the platinum penny discovery, thousands of people have started searching through old coin collections, rolls of pennies from banks, estate sale purchases, and anywhere else old coins might be found. There's a famous story of a school teacher in Massachusetts who started a coin collecting club at her school and encouraged students to bring in any old pennies they found at home. One student brought in a coffee can full of old pennies that had belonged to his late grandfather. As the teacher and student sorted through these pennies, they found a 1946 S that looked unusual. The mint mark seemed doubled. And the teacher, who had been studying rare coin varieties, suspected they might have found something valuable. She sent the coin to PCGS for authentication, and it came back graded as a genuine 1946 Vestes repunched mint mark in MS-65 condition. The coin was eventually sold at auction for $78,000, and that money was split between the student and used to fund the school's educational programs, creating a windfall that nobody expected from a coffee can of old pennies. Another remarkable discovery happened at a flea market in Arizona. A man was browsing through boxes of old household items when he noticed a small jar of coins sitting on a table marked $2 for the entire jar. He bought it on a whim, mostly because he liked the vintage jar itself, but when he got home and examined the coins, he found several wheat pennies, including a 1946 that had an unusual weight and color. Curious. He took it to a local coin shop, and the dealer's eyes went wide when he examined it under magnification. It appeared to be struck on a silver planchet. After authentication, the coin was valued at over $200,000, turning a $2 flea market purchase into a life-changing discovery. These stories aren't just urban legends. They're documented cases that continue to inspire people to look carefully at their old coins. The psychology of hunting for rare 1946 wheat pennies is fascinating. It's essentially a real-world treasure hunt where the treasure is documented to exist. We know that platinum pennies were minted. We know that wrong planchet errors happened. We know that somewhere out there, in old collections, in forgotten jars, in rolls of pennies that have been sitting in bank vaults for decades, more of these coins exist waiting to be discovered. This is what drives people to search through thousands of pennies, the knowledge that the next coin they examine could be the one that changes everything, could be the ticket to financial freedom, could be the answer to every money worry they've ever had. And unlike buying lottery tickets where the odds are published and astronomically against you, with coin hunting, skill and knowledge actually matter. Learning to spot doubled mint marks, understanding what different metal types look like, knowing which years and mint marks to focus on, all of this increases your odds of making a significant discovery. The market for 1946 wheat pennies has shown incredible strength over the decades. When the hobby of coin collecting really took off in the 1960s during the coin shortage, 1946 pennies were already recognized as potentially valuable. But back then, a top-tier 1946 error might have sold for a few $1,000s. Today, those same coins are worth millions. This consistent appreciation has made rare coins attractive not just to hobbyists but to serious investors who view them as alternative assets that can diversify a portfolio. Rare coins have several advantages as investments. They're portable, they're durable, they have intrinsic historical and aesthetic value beyond just their metal content, and the market for top-tier rarities has proven remarkably resilient even during economic downturns. When stocks crashed in 2008, rare coin prices at the high end actually increased as wealthy collectors viewed them as safe havens. If you're inspired to start searching for valuable 1946 wheat pennies, here's what you need to do. First, educate yourself thoroughly about what varieties and errors to look for. Study high-quality photographs of known examples. Join online coin collecting forums where experienced collectors share knowledge and help identify unusual finds. Invest in a good magnifying glass or jeweller's loupe so you can examine coins properly. And consider buying an inexpensive digital scale that can measure to 0.01 grams so you can check if pennies have unusual weights that might indicate wrong planchet errors. When examining 1946 pennies, look carefully at the mint mark for any signs of doubling or repunching. Check the overall color and luster of the coin. Platinum has a distinctive silvery white color that's different from both copper and silver. Examine the date and liberty for any signs of doubling. Look for any unusual characteristics in the strike quality, off-center strikes, die cracks, missing elements. Anything that seems out of the ordinary deserves closer examination. Where should you look for these coins? Start with your own pocket change. It's unlikely but not impossible that a valuable 1946 penny could still be in circulation. Check any old coin collections you might have inherited or found in your home. Ask elderly relatives if they have old coins stored away. Many people who lived through the 1940s saved coins as a habit from the Depression era when every penny mattered. Visit estate sales and flea markets where old household items are being liquidated. Buy rolls of pennies from your bank and search through them. Some collectors literally go through thousands of dollars worth of pennies looking for that one rare find. And while this might seem tedious, remember that you're essentially buying lottery tickets at face value. If you buy a $50 box of pennies from the bank and don't find anything valuable, you can simply return them to the bank or spend them. You haven't lost anything except time. But if you find even a single valuable variety, the payoff could be enormous. The enduring appeal of the 1946 wheat penny worth $55 million is that it represents the ultimate treasure hiding in plain sight. It's not a coin from ancient Rome that you'd need an archaeological expedition to find. It's not a rare gold coin that was always valuable. It's a penny, the most humble denomination in American currency. Something that most people consider barely worth bending over to pick up off the ground, and yet this particular penny is worth more than a luxury mansion, more than a fleet of exotic cars, more than most people will earn in their entire lives. It's a reminder that value isn't always obvious, that treasures can hide in the most unexpected places, and that sometimes the smallest things can have the biggest impact. This coin proves that fortune favors not just the bold but also the observant, the knowledgeable, the persistent, and the lucky. It shows that even in our modern world where everything seems to be documented and categorized, mysteries remain, treasures wait to be discovered, and life-changing opportunities can literally be sitting in your pocket right now. So the next time you get change at a store, the next time you clean out a drawer and find some old coins, the next time you're tempted to dismiss a penny as worthless, remember the story of the 1946 wheat penny worth $55 million and take a closer look, because you never know what you might find. And that one moment of curiosity and attention could be the moment that changes your life forever.